Okay, Show Me a Sign by Anne Claire Lazotte. This is chapter 21. Hopefully my dog will stay quiet this time. By my count, 10 days pass. I mark each day with a corn kernel from a sack of meal with weevils that I found in the corner. Andrew shares his porridge. I try to sleep, often clutching my stomach. I cannot be sure if I have seasickness or food poisoning. I feel I've lost weight. I empty my chamber pot out of the portal, but sometimes the wind blows it back in. That's like pee and poop. The room reeks like an unkept stable. I struggle to keep my wits, let alone retain the bearing of a young lady. Andrew brings me cold seawater to wash with, separate from the murky jug of drinking water. It stings against my cuts and bruises. What hurts worse is that he doesn't see me as someone that was created in the Almighty's image. I'm only a specimen, not a person. He never took interest in the island sign language, just our infirmity. He could write to me, break my solitude with conversation, but he won't lower himself. To comfort myself, I try to make up a new story about a girl walking in a thick fog looking for her lost dog. She calls to him with a long whistle, but he's wounded and barking. How will she ever find him? I'm too sad to finish. Please, Lord, never let me forget Reverend Lee's sympathy and the admiration that Miss Hammond showed me. On the 11th day, Andrew unlocks my door. Scowling, he passes me a handwritten note in neat script. Rules. Number 1. You agree to my explanation that you willingly left your home to travel with me. Number 2. You agree to be a willing subject of my study of your infirmity. I look up at Andrew and shake my head. With his jaw set firmly, he points a long index finger at the letter. He wants me to continue reading. Penny, stop. Sorry. Number 3. You will always behave well and proper. Number 4, you will not run away. Number 5, you will not communicate with anyone away from my influence. Break any of these rules and you will never again see your parents. My heart sinks. I nod to show Andrew that I agree to his terms, but behind my back I cross my fingers. He hands me a jug of clean water and indicates that I should wash my face and hands. I must clean off the dried blood, but I can hardly bear to pour water over my bluish skin. Andrew stands and waits. I dust off my cloak, untangle my hair with my fingers best I can, and straighten my hat. He gives me a hard look and points, ordering me on the deck. After the darkness of my journey, I must squint into the morning sun. The freezing wind combs my still tangled hair. My knees knock, and I long for clean, warm blankets that Mama made me. At least the sea air smells better than my pigsty below. I recognize Boston Harbor from the plates in George's book. I've always dreamed of coming to see this place where the Revolution began, but never like this. The inner harbor is much bigger and busier than the Edgerton Harbor. The wharfs are spread out on every side. I see a forest of ships, masts like bare trees. Side to side we're surrounded by huge trading ships. I observe men loading heavy pallets with barrels and sacks, straining to lift them with ropes and pulleys onto the dock. Miss Hammond told us that sailors travel all the way from China to sell their goods. I see a small monkey climbing on the ropes of a ship. It has a chain on its leg. Andrew has tethered me to the schooner with a rope. Andrew tethered me to the schooner with a rope around my right ankle as soon as he dropped anchor. The sailors disembarking tall ships didn't look like Ezra Brewer. They're young and thick with muscle, wearing neckerchiefs and striped shirts. They make fast business taking the sails down and unloading their various goods before they disappear in raucous groups into the city. Could I escape Andrew and get lost among the sailors? What would I do from there? It's such a strange sight to see everyone around me flapping their lips but never raising their hands to communicate with signs. There's so much to look at that the details overwhelm me and they make my head hurt. After Andrew finishes securing the schooner, he unties my ankle. In a masquerade of chivalry, he takes my hand and helps me onto the dock. Bostonians are bustling to and fro. Men rush around in breeches and tricorn hats and shoes with brass buckles. Some even wear wigs. Mama would look plain among the Boston ladies. I admire their fine coats. Unlike our clothes, they're not all made from wool, cotton, and animal skin. I see many silk coats and even silk shoes. Decorative hats with lots of lace and ribbons and plumes that I could never have imagined such finery. I'm so sorry, you guys, this dog. She's being really naughty. I see a few fishermen, but I do not see any men that recognize as Wampanoag. They may be both, like Thomas. Ezra Brewer said slave catchers are plentiful in the city, and even free blacks are kidnapped and sold. The thought sickens me. I'm expected to carry Andrew's carpet bag. He holds tight to his black satchel with one hand, and his other hand firmly grips my upper arm as we weave through the crowd. My eyes water, but I won't cry out. Flat brick buildings line the street, tall and close together. They wear no gabled roofs or other accents. Their faces flat with many windows, like glowing eyes. The cobblestones beneath my feet are worn smooth, though I still stumble in this unfamiliar place. We pass North Church. I recognize it from the tall white steeple, a needle that almost pierces the sky. I imagine Paul Revere telling his conspirators to hang lanterns on the steeple to warn patriots about the movement of the British Army. Miss Hammond enacted his speech. I alarmed almost every house until I got into Lexington. The streets grow narrower and dirtier. Beggars crouch in the corners under worn blankets, and I think of what Andrew said about deaf people begging for alms in the street. Are some of the people I see now deaf? If they are, would they understand my signs? Maybe the deaf of the city have no language. Andrew seems to find them repugnant. Ezra Brewer told me that after the war for independence, veterans who lost limbs or who were disfigured were treated as heroes. But I see no evidence of those with physical differences being respected. As we turn the corner, a group of sailors bursts from a tavern. One of them, burly, with a bald head, tosses coin money in the air and catches it. The others laugh and nod. Along another street, women stand in doorways. They're not elegant like the ladies that we passed at the wharf. They're dressed garishly with too much face paint. They look at us and laugh. Do they think I'm Andrew Noble's young bride? I want to call to them for help. I raise my hands to sign, but quickly put them down before Andrew sees me. We stop in front of a dingy red brick building in a narrow back street. I inhale foul odors. Are chamber pots dumped in the streets here? I try not to retch. A wooden sign swings over the doorway. It reads, High Tide Inn. Andrew lifts the heavy brass door knocker. A short, stocky woman opens the door, her face round and roomy, with roomy blue eyes and a lemon-colored hair. She is not unpleasant looking, just rough. She wipes her hands on her apron and embraces Andrew. He cringes at her touch, but she doesn't seem to notice. They exchange words with glances in my direction. I wonder in frustration what they're saying. I bend my knee and sign, How do? She looks me up and down and shakes her head, and then she leads us into the parlor, takes Andrew's coat before she rushes off. The parlor is untidy, though the furniture is threadbare and the curtains are sooty. Wait, the parlor is tidy, though the furniture is threadbare and the curtains are sooty. A parlor is like a sitting room. It's like a room where people just go and talk, okay? Next to the parlor is a staircase. I wonder how many rooms are upstairs. I glimpse at the young gentleman, slight of build, with thin blonde hair, who looks faintly respectable. He wears spectacles that slip down on his nose. His eyes narrow over the top of the rims. I name him Mr. Squints. He almost bumps into me as he exits the parlor with a stack of books under his arm. I imagine he's a student. The woman comes back in carrying a tray with tea and meat stew, which she serves to Andrew. She signals for me, and I follow into the kitchen. It's cramped and dirtier than Mama's kitchen. The bricks are burnt black around the open hearth, and the room holds heat that makes me sweat unpleasantly, even after the cold outside. There's no charm. Not a piece of sea glass or a basket of dried flowers. Chairs are draped with laundry and the table is piled with pots and pans and assorted sundries. A rancid odor fills the room. Rancid is like really bad. The woman gives the stew a stir and then walks over to me, looking me up and down. She pulls off my wool cloak and she examines it. And then she takes my hands in hers and turns them over and over. She checks behind my ears and smells my person. I am rank from my travels. I feel invisible. I stare at the fire. Rank means you smell real bad. I stare at the fire and I openly look up when I feel a strong vibration from the floor. She is stomping her foot. She clasps her hands in front of my face, grabs my arm, and leads me to the wash bin. Married need never have shown the deaf are treated as less than humans on the mainland, Papa signed to Mama. Is that how the world is outside of Chilmar? Is that why he doesn't like to travel off the island? Is that the reason Ezra Brewer mocks people and their morals? Have I been living on a cloud for 11 years? I look at the landlady as she talks at me. It's like I'm gazing into a looking glass and believing that the reversed reflection is the truth. I don't know what she wants. Slam! My neck suddenly twists and my head swerves to the left. That landlady hit my right ear with the palm of her hand. I've heard of adults boxing children's ears. It creates a painful sensation, maybe even a ringing in my head, which is the closest I've ever come to hearing. I put my hands on my knees and take deep breaths and then totter and stand up. Grandmother Harmony, who had become hard of hearing in her dotage, was able to read words on people's lips. When I was little, I tried it, but I found it impossible. I think I must attempt it again. If I can recognize even a handful of words, perhaps she won't be so rough with me. Finally, the landlady makes motions like she's washing the dishes and she points at me, then to a stack of dishes. The way the scraps are stuck to them, I'd say they've been there for a few days. I wash them with a stained cloth and a bit of dingy lukewarm water. Then I finish drying them on a greasy apron. I'm given a hard biscuit, which I sop in some of the lard left on the bottom of the kettle. I am not offered a seat, so I stand while I eat. When I'm done eating, the landlady takes me by the arm and she leads me down a spiral staircase through a narrow hallway. She stops and she gives me a candle that she was carrying and she gestures for me to go into a small room with a bed and a washstand and a worn rug of indiscernible color. It's not nearly as bad as the schooner cabin. I feel a quick bang. When I turn around, the landlady has vanished. I try the door, but she's locked me in. Oh my gosh. As I undress for bed, I remember the gold coin that Mama sewed into the hem of my gown for good luck. It's gone. I shudder to think Andrew took it while I was unconscious. I feel its loss as a prick to my skin. My heart burns. I don't have a story or a shanty in me tonight. I cannot bear to think how distraught Mama and Papa must be. I should have never confronted Andrew. Sometimes I feel like I can do nothing right. I get down on my knees to pray, and I remember the benediction from Reverend Lee. And I sign, "O Lord, there is nothing in this life that is a surprise to you. You see our daily struggles and give us strength to endure through the power of your Spirit. Create in us clean hearts and help us to remember that your strength comes from you alone. Amen." This is getting bleak.